Hi everyone, this is Davide from Hotspawn. Today we're joined by G2's jungler SkewMond ahead of the start of First Time 2026. So first of all, welcome. It's good to see you back.
Thank you.
I kind of wanted to ask you, how was the flight from Berlin to Brazil, and are you doing right now? Are you feeling jet lagged, or are you feeling a little bit of the stress pressure from the event?
First of all, thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm good. For the jet lag thing, I think we've already been adapting pretty well regarding that one. And as for the flight, yeah, I mean, it was pretty long for sure, but I think that it was pretty fun to do it with my teammates. I think we had like a lot of good funny moments, and so far, yeah, I mean, we've been like seeing a bit of Brazil, and it looks pretty good, and I'm really excited for our games tomorrow.
You mentioned funny moments. What's one funny moment that you can share with us?
Uh, I mean, like probably us taking the same flight with Genji. Probably, I think it was pretty
Ooh.
random, but yeah, we had the same flight, but they went in business, so they probably
Oh,
slept more than us in the plane. But yeah, it was pretty funny to see them on the same plane.
did you get to chat with them a little bit?
Not really. I mean, we just like saw each other and just like give a little nod, a little hi to like yeah, just acknowledge us.
Perfect. Before we jump into the event, I kind of wanted to talk about yourself. I wanted to hear your thoughts on a couple of things. So let's rewind it a little bit. Let's go back a little bit in time. My first question for you is, before League of Legends existed for you, back when you were a kid, what did you dream of becoming, of wanting to become? And do you think that the younger version of yourself would recognize who you are right now?
Um, I think like I was already like playing a bit of video games, but definitely like not on like laptop or PCs in general. I was playing like for example like Pokemon games. I played like some FIFA and stuff like this. But yeah, in general, I was like really like loving a lot of video games. But before like having a pro career, I was also like doing a lot of judo, and I stopped. I think I've did like for like 11 years if I'm not mistaken, and I stopped right before the black belt, so like brown belt. And besides that, yeah, a lot of video games in general.
You mentioned judo. Is there like any thought of wanting to go for that black belt sometime in the future?
I mean, definitely for the black belt for sure, because like I was literally like 1 year away of having it, so it's a bit of a shame that I wasn't really able to like finish it because I had to stop when like COVID started, so like back in 2019. Um, but I didn't really think that much of like going into like a professional career, to be honest. But getting the black belt would have been like pretty nice.
Do you think like learning judo and everything that comes with it kind of helped you shape the way you are as a pro player?
Definitely a bit, yeah. Like I can see myself like having like the learnings that I had in judo, like continuing to have them in my pro career, because like you learn like so many things in the sport, whether it's like respect for yourself, for your like teammates, and like discipline, all this kind of stuff. So definitely it was like a lot of learnings from that time. Yeah.
Let's imagine that we're in 2020. I think at the time you
Mm.
still weren't playing competitively, if I'm not mistaken. What
Yep.
was your life like at that point? And did you already have an idea of wanting to go pro at that time?
I mean 2020. Yeah. I mean it was again like during COVID, so I was playing some solo queue, some League of Legends. I think I was like around Master Elo. Obviously, like I always like kind of have these thoughts and dreams of like playing on the biggest stage, because I've always been watching like international like games, whether it's like Worlds or MSI, and yeah, definitely it was like kind of a dream to see myself playing in that stage and winning it, obviously. So I've already had these thoughts, but it wasn't. It was like kind of nothing concrete. It was just like me playing solo queue and looking to get high elo and like reach get as much LP as I can. But taking the correct step and the first steps to like get into a professional career didn't really start at that time. Yeah.
You obviously then moved on, started from the amateur scene, I think, in France, and then obviously
Yes.
moving up the ranks through the LFL. I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on how were the years on the LFL and what it felt like for you to grind through the regional leagues.
Yeah, basically, like I was playing first in like third division, and I've got the chance to like basically just skip the second one to jump directly into LFL, which is like a very big step. I don't think any other player did that, if I'm not mistaken. And I think my first year was like probably the roughest one because, as I said, like having that big of a jump is not that easy. Even though like I've ended up like second place in regular season and third place in playoff in my very first split. I think this year was pretty rough because we were not playing like in office with my other teammates, so it was pretty like difficult to have like some good habits and have all these talks with your teammates to have like a proper like team like spirit in general. So yeah, it ended up like being probably like the hardest one in my career so far, but I've learned a lot from it. And afterwards, when I joined like BDSA, I think it was like way much easier because I've had more experience coming to that year, and also like me being able to like play like in the office with my other teammates helped to like actually like build up that team synergy, and ended up like winning it all in the end.
The gamer life, the gamer career, is not that welcome, I guess, among the older generations. Did your family support you? If you're able to like elaborate a little bit on that, did people know around you know that you were going for this pro player career?
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, in the beginning it was pretty hard for them to really see and understand what I really wanted to go for as like a career. Obviously, I was always playing a lot of video games, and they were like aware of it. But for them, since like they're coming from like a way older generation, at that time they didn't really have like any of this like new technology and devices that really like it's they just don't see it like as a real job. So it was definitely like hard in the beginning, but yeah, when I started like actually getting more recognized as a good player and actually getting offer like in the LFL, for example, and having a good contract, it actually kind of helped them to understand that okay, you can actually like live from it, and this is like probably like the most important thing if you want to have like like if you want to pursue a career. So yeah, in the beginning it was hard, but like as of today, obviously they're really supporting me, and it means a lot.
Let's talk about G2 now. I kind of wanted to ask you like if you can kind of walk me through how you knew you were going to become a G2 player, or like what happened at the time and what were you feeling in that particular period.
Yeah, so basically after ending my year with BDSA, we've ended up like winning both LFL and EMEA Masters, and that year like we were like screaming like a lot of LEC teams and having like good results against them. One that is like G2, we've been playing against them a lot, and we've had decent results. So honestly, I didn't really thought about like joining G2 in particular because they were also like playing Worlds at the time when my season ended. But I was like pretty confident that I was going to play in LEC, that's for sure. But yeah, like the G2 offer came like kind of late in the season, obviously because they were playing Worlds. And yeah, I mean, when I got it, I didn't really hesitate because for me it's just like the best team and org you can probably join in Europe. And yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Got it. Was there any particular challenge that you faced as you entered G2 last year? Was there anything particular that you think you didn't expect or that caught you off guard, I guess?
Not really stuff that I didn't expect, I would say. Like the hardest stuff were like the expectation coming, as a G2 player, right? Because looking back at like 2024, the team literally won everything in Europe. And yeah, like they were just like really dominant. So like coming as a rookie in this team meant that a lot of people would have expected me to like just be the best instantly, right? Which is like a bit hard to see. I would have wished that I was like that good at the time, but sadly it's not really realistic. So I've took time here to like just develop as a player and as a teammate. And in the beginning it was really hard because everybody like expected like so many good stuff from me, and I wasn't really able to deliver like all the stuff that people like saw in me as a player. So yeah, like all the like fans, like all the critics in general, and obviously like we've worked like really hard. So like the burnout, I didn't really get burnout, but like as a way of saying that we were like really like screaming a lot, playing a lot of solo queue in order like to be the best. And yeah, like losing 2 finals in a row was like pretty rough, and having like a poor like international showing. But I think that with like all these experiences, I really got to like learn a lot from myself, and learn how to like not really get affected by those things.
Do you think there was like a particular moment where you had like that mental shift to like get away rid of the, let's say, the noise? Do you think there was like a particular moment? Do you remember when that happened?
Yeah, for me it was like after MSI. So as I said, yeah, like we've lost like winter split finals, spring finals, and we are like really poor showing in MSI. And afterwards, like thanks to the help of like our performance coach, I've really like worked a lot on like not really getting affected by it and looking at like solutions to like just focusing on me and on the team in general in a daily basis. And yeah, like afterwards, like we played EWC and summer split, and I've really just like shut down all the distractions, as we mentioned, like whether it's like social media or like yeah, like mostly social media, to be honest, to just like focus on like on the team and like on the scrims on my everyday life, so I can really make sure that I'm like giving my all and not really have any regrets in the end.
I was actually looking through your Twitter account, and you still have the picture of the World's 2024 trophy as the pin post.
Yeah.
Do you still think that like the final goal, that is the final goal for you, or do you have anything beyond that in LoL Esports?
I mean, definitely it is like, yeah, the biggest goal. If one day I would be able to win that trophy, I'm not really sure what to do next. Obviously, my dream is like to win this trophy and like build a real long career as like I want people to remember me like one of the greatest like European player ever, and this comes by like obviously like winning a lot in Europe first of all, and having like a great showing in international and winning some trophy in international. So like I really want to like, yeah, build this legacy of my own, and it will take like a lot of time for sure, right? And a lot of work, a lot of discipline, a lot of like consistency, and yeah, that will be like my goal.
You mentioned have wanting to build that legacy, wanting to be consistent and go for results. You actually have one of the, let's say, biggest, actually I guess the biggest like Western player in the team, which is Caps. Do you think that like, first of all, how is it to work with him, and then do you think that it makes your job easier or harder to on the team?
I mean, obviously, like working with a player like Caps is like definitely like really like nice, obviously, because like everything that he's achieved, and obviously like he's like still really insane as of today. Like it's just like the greatest European player ever for sure. And yeah, I mean, definitely it's like pretty like easy in a way. I'm not sure if it's the correct word, right? But like very, he facilitates me a lot on like a lot of things, whether it's like outside the game or like inside. I think he's like definitely has like a lot of good ideas coming to like the game, and I can really like see his passion through like our everyday scrims, because he really want to push himself to be the best, and keep learning and making sure that we as a team improve and get to a point where we can actually like compete against like the best team in the world.
Moving on to first stand, obviously you guys are going to face TSW in the opener match. First of all, what do you think about the Vietnamese team, and what do you think are like your expectations for the tournament in general?
Yeah, for like Team Secret Royals, I think they're like a pretty like good opponent to play against. I think like they have like a lot of good ideas in the early game. I think like they are really like aggressive in their playstyle, and I think it's really good to play against them. It's going to be a good challenge because when you look at the older bracket or like the other teams in general, I think they are like not the strongest opponent, if I may. But I think that when I was watching their games, as I said, they have a pretty good early game, and I think for us G2 in this winter split, early game was like one of our strongest like things. So it's going to be interesting to see like how we match them in that regard. And I think there are like a lot of young players, and they're probably like the future of their region. And as for first stand, yeah, like our goal is definitely like to go as far as possible and make Europe proud.
You're placed in the same group as BLG and BFX. Obviously, you still don't know how the matchups will go on both matchups, but like you're bound to face one of them regardless of how it goes. What do you think about BLG and BFX so far?
I think BLG, yeah, definitely like looks very strong. Compared to last year, I think they got better, like with the change of like, I mean the comeback of Shun, I guess, and like the new signing of Viper. I think like they are like pretty like strong team. Obviously, they won like LPL like on a like pretty good fashion, and I think they will be like a really strong opponent to play against. And as for BFX as well, like they are kind of the surprise. Looking at like the LCK split, definitely I think a lot of people would have expected like Genji and T1 or like maybe DK to like be the teams to like represent LCK, but they've actually managed to like surprise a lot of people by like beating T1 if I'm not wrong in like the upper bracket, and like beating DK 3-0 in the like lower bracket. So I think they are like pretty strong, especially like with their like star player like Diablo. I think like he's like the most talented ADC I've seen like in a while, right? He's pretty young, pretty good. So I think that is gonna be fun to see how they play against each other.
On the game side of things, I kind of wanted to ask you two things. So first of all, what do you think are the key qualities to be a world-class jungler in professional play right now? This could be both in-game, but also obviously outside of the game, I guess, as a person. So I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I think for like the in-game stuff, I think like just like keep refining strategies, whether it's like about the early game, about your timings, and most important thing I think is like being decisive on like what you want to do in the game, because if you are just like not really able to like take action when like the pressure is on, then you will just like get crushed by the opponents, because you will just like keep thinking about what you can do instead of like actually like doing the thing. And I think for like as of the game is just like being a leader, right? Like showing like the example to your teammates, being someone that people can trust, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And keep shot calling, keep like talking in the game, and giving your opinion about what is going on.
Do you think, were you always a vocal player? Do you think that the vocal part of thing came after joining G2, or did you have that already in your academy days?
I think I've always like had it kind of. Also, like being a jungler kind of like makes it easier in a way. You really like have like way more room to talk, especially like in the early game.
Mhm.
While people are laning, you are really able to see like what is going on in the game and what you can do, and what are like the opportunities you can have in the game. But yeah, I mean for me it was like kind of always there. So, and yeah, like joining G2, like I just keep like working on that, and looking to like bring as much as I can for the team.
Yeah, sure. What do you think about the jungle meta right now? I don't think it has changed that much, I guess, from the start of the season. But like, are you happy with how the state of the jungle is right now compared to even potentially last year?
Yeah, I think like jungle is like pretty versatile right now. You can see like obviously like a lot of reserves, I think, like in the early game, but like it's not. I wouldn't be surprised if like like some AP junglers like come back to the meta, or like some champs like maybe Lee Sin, Nidalee, like this kind of like aggressive playstyle. But also like you can see like a lot of tanks as well. It all depends of like your composition, but I think it makes it kind of nice, because even in game ones you're not really like certain to see like matchups like, I don't know, like Xin Zhao, Wukong, as you could have seen like for example last year, especially in Worlds. I think it was like pretty straightforward, like the very first games in the meta. So I think it's very nice to see like all these champions being able to play.
If you can describe yourself in 3 words and you cannot use any gaming related terms, what would they be?
Funny. Determined.
Okay.
And I don't know. Aware.
Self-aware?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, self-aware.
okay, perfect. I remember you telling someone, I guess, someone who, in another interview, that you don't really get to do much else aside from playing League during the season. But I kind of wanted to ask you, like, what does SkewMond actually look like when he's not on the PC?
I don't really know what it is, honestly, because I'm kind of spending most of my time here in the PC, but I don't really know, right? Like I don't think I've done like so many activities like not regarding like phone or like PCs, which is kind of sad in a way when you think about it. But I would kind of like, I would be happy like to go like on I don't know, like other country, just discovering some new stuff, especially like some like nature in general. Like it's something that I would like really like to go to. I don't really like have any countries in mind, honestly, to be honest. But yeah, just like visiting some new stuff and taking like a fresh air, because I don't feel like I took like a long break for a long time.
Do you you obviously seem like someone who's very determined, who has a lot of, like you said, self-aware, and you actually have a clear idea of what you want to do. Do you also kind of have a close idea of what your full potential or ceiling could be like? Obviously in game. Do you think that with after the first year, with the rookie year with G2, do you think you're getting much closer to that level? If it's not, how far do you think you are?
I can't really tell, to be honest. I'm not really sure, right? I don't really think about like this idea of like ceiling and like peak in general, to be honest, because like for example, and like I'm really well placed to say this because when I look at players, for example, like Caps, like Faker, or like I don't know, like if there's any other player like that keep playing for like that long time and stays at the top. But basically, when I look at these players, I don't really feel like for them they're looking at themselves at like, oh, back in the days, yeah, I was like at my peak form, and I'm not sure if I will keep it again. But like every year, they just keep staying at like at high level by just putting the walk in, and I think that for myself, I kind of like see it in the same way, where like I don't really think about this idea too much. I just want to give my best, and like once my career is over, then maybe I can think about it and look back at like, oh, how did I do this year, this split, this tournament. But yeah, for now I don't really have like this idea of like how far I can go. I really think that there's like many things that I can improve on, whether it's like my mechanics, my communication, and like my how I live my daily life by like eating, my sleeping habits, all this stuff. I think like all of these things I've just mentioned, I think I can do better on it. So I think that my potential is, I still have a lot of things to get into.
Two more questions. So the first one is hypothetically, it's a scenario. So it's a World Championship final, BO5. You can choose a team, a roster to play against, and a place to have that happen. Who do you pick and why?
T1, right? Is it SKT T1 or T1 that I would like to face? I don't know.
Oh.
Probably T1, I guess. The roster, probably like, I guess, Zeus, Owner, like Faker, Gomakaya. Yeah, probably these ones, I guess.
Okay.
And like the stadium, I don't really know the name, but I just know like the 2018 finals where like Fnatic played. I just remember that it was like such a big stadium, and like it just looked amazing. It was like kind of like outdoor, if I'm not mistaken.
2018
and,
Worlds?
2018, yeah.
Okay.
I think it was in Korea, maybe.
Semi-final or final?
Finals.
Finals.
I just know like where like Caps played basically against IG. Actually, maybe it was in China, no?
No,
Maybe
it was Korea. Yeah. I'm just looking at it. It was Korea.
Yeah.
Incheon, the city was. Okay. Perfect.
Because I just remember like the stadium being like really like huge. I just remember like also like the opening ceremony with like the elder, right? It was, like, really amazing to see. So like I think this one, and against T1, and then hopefully ending up with the win as well.
Just imagine we're 5 years down, like 5 years in the future. What's one message you would like to give to the SkewMond in 5 years?
I will tell him that I hope that you keep working hard. Don't leave like any regrets behind you. Just like keep like focusing on like what's important to you. Whether it's like league, maybe you will stop league, I don't know. And just pursuing a life that you really enjoy doing, working on a job that you actually just like having on a daily basis, and just taking care of yourself, taking care of the people you love, and eat well and sleep good.